So anyway, I want to spend the next actually 30 minutes talking about this concept of the digital canvas. And in the spirit of the Monaco Media Forum, I'm going to focus very much on sort of the major trends that we see in digital media today. I run Microsoft's consumer marketing on a global basis, so the launch of Windows 7 and Bing and other products. And I also run global ad sales and MSN and Windows Live on a global basis. So I'm going to give you a sense, kind of a global perspective. Also, Microsoft is an advertiser itself, a publisher, and obviously the world's biggest software company. Before I get into some of the big trends we're seeing, this is probably a worthwhile perspective. Of course, I think most people are familiar with Microsoft. Something you might not be familiar with is that, of course, we started as an offline software company. We're kind of rebranding that. We didn't know it was offline at the time we started. But as we progressed, we added more and more online assets to our business. So now when we architect software, every piece of consumer software has both an offline instantiation and an online instantiation. So Xbox, 10 million consoles, 2/3 of them online, Xbox Live. Office Live, soon to launch web apps, the ability to manage PowerPoint or Excel in the cloud. Windows Live. Windows Live has been a huge asset to the company because it's allowed us in our latest operating system that we launched 3 weeks ago, Windows 7, to make the operating system smaller than the previous system, a lot from leveraging the cloud and being able to put software into the cloud on demand. So it's that software plus services perspective that we're taking forward as a company. This actually might be interesting to most of you in terms of time spent. This is an interesting way to measure the size of each of these businesses. And there was a Comscore report that just came out last week. And if you look at Microsoft on a global basis, we're actually the biggest player in the internet if you just look at time spent. So 15% of all time spent on the internet is on MSN, Hotmail, Instant Messenger, Microsoft.com, and our various other assets. When you're offline on a computer, about 70% of the time you spend offline is on Windows, Office, playing solitaire, which is actually the #1 offline application still. Very popular game. But it shows we obviously have a lot at stake in both the offline and the online worlds. What I want to talk now is a little bit about this, about the digital canvas. And when you look at this, one of the main things we're seeing is not just an expansion of the digital canvas, but a connection to the digital canvas. So in America today, the average person in America actually has 10 to 12 digital devices in their lives. So it might be a navigator, it might be a camera, a television, a PC, a game device. But what we're seeing now is a convergence across those devices, and we're working on the software that will make those screens come together in a very democratic way. Now, Apple obviously has done some great work in their vertical in linking some of these devices, and Microsoft's now working to bring that into the ecosystem of choice and the democratic household where you've got many devices from many different players, and how can we actually link those things? And this is a big deal for consumers. It's also a very big deal for advertisers. I'm going to show you a few things that are going on in this world that are really just tremendous opportunities for advertisers to link into this new connected digital lifestyle. So any great canvas needs paints. This is another thing that isn't spoken a lot about, but the advances in the tools that artists use to paint on the canvas is just absolutely tremendous. I'm going to show you some of the latest things happening, for instance, in high-definition video, or some of the latest things happening in banner ads and things, rich media advertising, that's really going to bring this canvas to life for advertisers. And the era of the flat banner or the text link is soon going to be behind us because of just the emergence of new tools to paint on this ever-expanding canvas. So I want to talk about 6 areas. Now, this is not 3 to 5 years from now. These are trends that are going on in the industry today, and I'm going to give you very practical examples of the use of each of these in our business. The first is the area of rich media. Now, we all know about rich media, of course, but this is just exploding, and it's very important for branded advertisers. This is a recent ad here for the movie Up in the UK. In the UK now, digital advertising is larger than television, right? Over 25% now of advertising in the UK is now done online. The United States is more 14 to 15%. But this kind of advertising, you're going to see more and more of this, and it's tremendously important. So just this ad alone the click-throughs on the ad and the impressions it drove were 2 to 5x what you would have in a normal standard banner ad, and that makes a huge difference for a company, in this case like Walt Disney. Second area I want to talk is about multi-screen executions. We also worked on the Obama campaign and some of the work he did across multiple screens. This is a great example of a campaign for Harry Potter. Here are executions, single creative asset across the PC, the phone, the gaming system, and also even a product like Surface, which is in a lot more institutions in the United States where you walk into a movie theater, in this case, take a ticket that you bought online or even on your phone, throw it on a Surface, and actually get couponing and things. So now again, connecting the assets. We've recently announced with the Silverlight tool set, you're able to have a single creative asset. We're able to actually take it across multiple screens. We're now doing similar executions for a lot of television in the United States. It's coming online to find audience. So the ABC show Flash Forward, Top Chef. We've got a great multi-screen execution coming up for the Ford Sync. We've done the same for Bing and for Windows 7 on launch. It really has multiples in terms of the ROI people get. It's sort of like in the offline world, if you do billboard, radio, and print, you can get multiples also in the online world by representing yourself on multiple screens to your audience. And this has been a huge thing. We've got a big pipeline of these kind of executions in the US, and this is also coming here in Europe as well. The next area I want to talk about is digital hooks. Of course, people talk about iPhone apps and you talk about Facebook sites, but the great news for everyone is the digital hooks across this canvas are increasing. You know, in software we call them APIs, SDKs, but think as an advertiser, there are more and more opportunities to bring your brand to life across this new digital canvas. Today we're announcing a new program where we're allowing brands to create digital theme packs. So these are brands like Porsche and Ferrari and Coca-Cola and 7-Up and Bing. We're doing the same, where for your brand fans you can hook, or basically call it tricking out their PC experience across the PC, the phone, with gadgets, web slices. We just recently launched this. If you think of a new computer experience, when you go to personalize your desktop, you right-click, and we give you kind of pictures of scenery and things. Well, the first time ever, we're allowing brands to come into that photo gallery, and this has just been 3 weeks on Windows 7. There's been 10 million downloads, and when consumers choose, 6 of the 10 top downloads have actually been brands, not just your classic sort of landscape that you would usually find in Windows. Big brands like Ferrari are already on there. Porsche, Coca-Cola has actually been a very popular download of consumers so far. This is 3 weeks, which is just incredible if you think about the number of passionate fans that will be able to trick out their desktop. And we're now looking at server technology so that those brands can then tag the users and be able to market to the users, and also those brands can keep their desktop theme packs completely up to date and constantly changing the imagery that they would then present to their consumers. This goes across the entire PC and is really helping brands that have passionate fans, allow them in their digital experience to really express that passion in digital form. I want to now talk about global execution. We're one of the few companies that can execute across multiple markets on the same day. We're seeing more and more of this. On May 5th, for the House of Chanel, we did a 25-market execution for Chanel No. 5. This started on the very same day in Australia, went to Japan, China, India, then into Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Canada, LATAM, US. This is the first time that Chanel bet heavily on digital and had a huge impact for their brand. Extreme number of positive tweets and other social media about the Chanel brand, and it was really the introduction for them of Audrey Tautou, who was then in the movie about Coco Chanel. And for them, a huge breakthrough from a company that was very much almost 100% an analog to move into digital and find a way to reach a massive audience in a new way, because they're trying to put new life into their brand for maybe a younger female who they would have to go to digital to actually engage with. These global executions are increasing for Windows 7. Somebody had mentioned earlier that, oh, why is Microsoft using TV to advertise Windows? Well, in fact, 50% of all of our advertising is digital. So we did heavy TV in the US, UK, France, Germany, but if you got to Denmark, Finland, it was 100% digital. So what we do is we heavy up in offline media, and also messaging now travels around the world very fast. So then when you land it in a place like Denmark, you can be 100% digital, and that's enough to land your message in smaller countries, where it gets a lot more complex to do offline media. And online media for us is actually a lot simpler because it's a common platform, easier to buy, and obviously MSN and Windows Live are global assets for us as a company as well. The next area that's hot, there's been a lot of mention of this. It is true. HD video is just exploding. Our video streams at MSN are up 2 to 3x year over year, and even in countries like India. We did the Beijing Olympics with NBC. More people watched the Olympics online than offline in Beijing. For the Whistler Olympics, we just launched the 100-day countdown to Vancouver, which is my hometown. Glad to be Canadian. And we've taken that player and taken it to a whole new level. So the new players are all in 1080p, high definition. They also have TiVo-like capabilities that someone mentioned, where a live feed, like on this France 24, you can go backwards and then catch up to the live feed over time. Also now for 3 megabits per second type upload and download speeds. So pretty tremendous advances in video players. We've come out with a recent one now, where as you watch the video, it dims the lights around you to give you almost a Hulu-like, we call it, experience on video. But a big, big area. And with the advent now of more long-form and commercial video, we're running a big test in the UK. We have it in the US. And being able to run TV ads online, sort of interstitial ads, so people don't have to create different content, is a huge booming part of the industry right now, and a very, very tough time, but something that's emerging very fast. I mean, the internet hasn't slowed down during this great recession, and a lot more people are watching video, including myself, online and more commonly in a lot of markets. The last thing I want to mention is social media. So Microsoft is also involved in the social media space. This is a tool that we have in proof of concept. It runs on SharePoint, so it's a client-based tool for inside the firewall. This is how we manage social media at Microsoft. So this tool looks across YouTube, Wikipedia, Facebook, MySpace, Windows Live, Flickr, microblogs, and we're able to track the buzz on any of our brands within any hour of the day. So this is a tremendously important tool, and we've done things over the weekend where we fixed the Windows 7 beta by tracking buzz on social media. We can track videos, we can track blogs, we can also engage in the social media in the proper way to try to deal with issues. We've also got analysis that can analyze positive versus negative mentions. So we know Windows 7, for instance, good news, it's 19-to-1, positive to negative, right? We manage that. We also will set goals for our teams when they go out to create buzz. If, say, the average buzz for Bing is like 3,000 an hour, we'll set a goal. Okay, we're going to launch some advertising. We want to get the buzz up to 10,000 an hour. So it's a new way to actually measure and listen to your consumer. Also, the APIs, or the connections you have into your corporate information systems, allow an email to be sent to the CMO in the middle of the night if something's gone wrong, or to the PR department as well. So we have a lot of, this is in proof of concept, but we do have Looking Glass now at companies like Kellogg's and Pepsi, and probably a list of 100 customers that we are finding a hard time to fulfill, only because we're still in more of a beta form on this product. But more to give you an example, that there are also enterprise class products now in social media, and they're becoming more of what we call a tier 1 application for marketing departments around the world. And certainly in Microsoft, monitoring social media is now an absolutely indispensable way to do marketing. I can't imagine we would do it in another way. And compared to the way when we launched Vista, to the way we use digital when we launched Windows 7, it was a major way that we managed the influencers and the early buzz on the product at CES, all the way through the recent launch in October. And I mean, from my own view, and having this on the consoles, all of my marketers, it's really been very much indispensable. So, very quickly, 6 big trends on the digital canvas. It is expanding rapidly, and in every market I go to, I travel all around the world. If anything, digital advertising is increasing at a more rapid pace as a percentage of advertising. Recently it was with the team in Spain. Just in a year it's gone from 8% to 12% in Spain, in a very, very difficult market in Spain in terms of kind of broader advertising. And part of this is because the tools are improving. We're able now to attract brand advertisers onto the internet. And a lot of these markets that were previously trailing are catching up in double speed. Major brands now marketing through Latin America. You know, for the World Cup, it's going to, I think, just going to blow people away when they see the amount of HD video on the World Cup on a global basis, and how brands are going to go into some of these countries like Argentina, Brazil, and other contenders in the World Cup and really market directly to citizens on a targeted basis through products like Windows Live and Instant Messenger and other things. This is a pretty exciting time to be in the industry, and I want to thank you very much. And also, I think we're going to do a quick Q&A.
Yeah, we are.
Curt Hecht is going to join me, a good friend of the company, has helped me also with the Razorfish deal, and a bunch of other work that Publicis and Microsoft Advertising are doing together. So thanks a lot, Curt.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
That's great, Darren. So what I wanted to do was ask you a couple of questions that I get asked the most, because it would be representative of what's on our client's mind and what's on our team's mind. So yesterday alone, I got 3 text messages from the president of Leo Burnett on Looking Glass, and then I spent an hour on the phone with a large client around Looking Glass. And so having been out in Redmond last week, I saw the demo. People totally get excited about it. You know, how did it come to be inside of Microsoft? I mean, why did you develop this? I understand you're using it. You mentioned Kellogg's. What's the rollout plan? What's the vision for this?
Yeah, I think Looking Glass is a great example of, you know, as a company, there's 2 cultures at company on the development side. There's obviously the long-standing culture of offline software development, which is a 3-year cycle generally. It's a very focused process. I mean, you look at a product like Windows or Office, and the reason these things take 3 years is because the ecosystem around them is so broad. Just getting the device drivers right, getting the product right, particularly to fit on so many different types of equipment, it's just a huge undertaking. It's like building a ship that you need to sail. But there's another side of Microsoft, because of this emerging world of services, products like Bing, products like our media network products, anything online where we actually have to innovate on a constant cycle. So with Bing in particular, we're literally releasing a new Bing every week. You know, so that team that works on that has to have a very different culture than the team that works on launching the offline software. And I think Looking Glass is a great example of work that was done by a team that was more on the online side of the business versus the offline side of the business. So that product, I'm like excited. People are super excited.
Yeah, amazing.
But we're innovating constantly on it and making sure that it is enterprise class, but that it does take advantage of this new kind of muscle that we're building at Microsoft to be A, more relevant, but B, more connected to what's going online.
Yeah, it's great because a woman named Marty that works at Microsoft took us through like how in real time she was managing the Windows 7 campaign, and the client that I was with was just really thinking through how they could use Looking Glass to impact their creative message in real time, and think through what was the impact of the marketing message and put it to work. So I think it's just another tool set that I think could be very relevant to agencies and marketing.
Yeah, that's what we're also trying to do with a lot of our clients, because I think, you know, obviously we're not the largest player in digital advertising. We're probably the 3rd largest player. But because of our unique position as an advertiser ourselves, and we went from, you know, only 5 years ago, 10% digital, and now 50% digital, and then sharing that journey with our clients, both all the great things that happen and all the very difficult things that we had to do from a cultural standpoint to change the way our marketeers think about their marketplace and their customers. It's, I think, very interesting to customers who are also buying advertising when they think of Microsoft as a publisher.
So let's talk about the 50%, because I've worked on some pretty large clients over the years, and you know, with budgets that probably are about the same, if not a little bit larger than Microsoft. And when we got to the 20-30% range, it became, you know, there was only so much digital media that you could buy effectively, and then you're just kind of blowing tonnage into the market. So talk to me about 50%. I mean, what channels, how do you do it, search, display, how did that work for you guys?
Yeah, we think about it, you know, it's a major tool for us to do things on a global basis. We think about our digital investment not just with advertising, it's where are you taking people after you attract them, how are you engaging them more deeply. a major overhaul of sites like Windows.com. The traffic on Windows.com, after Windows 7 launch was like 5x what it was the week before, and now is on a sustained basis 2x what it was before the launch. And part of that is we've tried to reinvent ourselves as a digital company. So advertising to us is just an attract routine. It's very important, but it is an attract routine, and it's where do you take your customer next, right? Because once you've attracted, and that's the beauty of digital, you can take your customer, you can engage with them in a two-way versus one-way conversation and take them down the purchase pipe. Our business is very much through partner, but there's a lot of things that Microsoft can offer our customers digitally, and that helps with that link between the attract, the engagement, and then ultimately taking them to purchase.
And so, for Mitch and the marketing team at Microsoft, as I've worked on client business, you take 5% out of analog, you put it in digital, you take 10% out, and then pretty soon you're kind of messing around with how they've looked at effectiveness over the years on marketing. So when you go to 50%, what were you guys before you went to 50? And how do you know it's working?
Yeah, it's interesting. This is actually a good message for the team here, because we're very much a data-driven culture. We found lots of great ways to measure effectiveness, but the one thing we definitely learned is average creative gets way over-measured to try to prove it was great creative. Great creative, we don't spend weeks measuring. Like once you have great creative and the high fives come out with a couple of data points, you can confirm it's great creative. But data isn't a good excuse for average creative. And I've been in rooms, particularly because we're so data-driven, we love Excel, of course, spent literally weeks trying to prove average creative was really great. And that, I think, is a trap people have to be very careful not to fall into. Now, I can get into the sophistication of the measures, but the great news is there's a lot to measure. I think as an industry, we have to help a little bit helping people measure the right thing. And it isn't all about click-through. For us, absolutely not. And that's...
Well, the Dapper guys love that message, right? They're like sitting there going like, let's automate that creative and we'll take care of it for you. So talk to us about Bing. So I haven't gotten to that yet. In the US, $100 million plus goes beyond Bing. Living in Chicago and spending a lot of time in the States, couldn't miss the messaging and especially on the digital side. But if I live in Europe, how do I think about Bing? And then the other question around this is, you guys have been pretty stated about the fact that retail, travel, there's some pretty niche verticals that you're focused on. But if I use a search engine, I'm not really thinking, it's like I might look for a bike race, I might think about the next travel event. How do you focus on verticals when you're competing against a company that kind of does it all well?
Yeah, so first of all, everything with Bing is going very well. We actually launched in the UK this morning. We took the beta off Bing in the UK, and if anyone's traveling back to the UK, they'll get more of a US-like experience when they get back. So we've done a ton of work there to map to the US, which is like best match, a lot of local information, getting your phone, the phone numbers of the best match up to the top, a lot of the travel data, integrating Chow, which was a huge acquisition we did here in Europe. You can all see for yourselves. We really only have 3 countries off beta, which are the US, Canada, and the UK. But we're going to continue on pushing that. Obviously, we have the Yahoo deal, which will give us probably 2 to 3x the number of searches. So we've got to be able to handle that from a system standpoint. That work's going on. But I think when we attack Bing, we certainly try to differentiate by specific verticals, but we're also trying to hit relevancy numbers that match or exceed Google in every market we're in. And we're pretty happy with our progress. Now, the great thing for consumers is we're both getting better. Google is becoming even more innovative with a little bit of push. So having 2 big companies like Microsoft and Google in this space, I think is probably good for the market, good for advertisers. But we're chasing very heavy that kind of broader relevancy to make sure the searches you do on Bing are just as good or better than any search you would do on Google. And that, and almost in any market, that's kind of table stakes to be in the search business. And after that, the vertical work is really to create differentiation, whether it's travel, whether it's e-commerce, to create a differentiated search experience that's better than what our competitor has.
Yeah, I think from an agency perspective, and it was at Web 2.0 when you guys announced that you're going to pick up Twitter in the index, and then a day later, Google makes the same announcement, and I think it's going to, at least from the Publicis point of view, we've been very encouraging competitiveness in the marketplace, and I think that was the first sign of it. I was also out in Mountain View last week, and I don't want to go into what I saw, but I'm seeing a whole nother level of innovation coming out on the Google side now on the paid search piece. And from our point of view, this is fantastic for our clients, and it's going to help people find the things that they're looking for. So, good luck, and we hope it continues to go well. So with that, we had about 10 minutes that I was going to ask questions, and then we wanted to open it up to the audience and see if there were any questions that you guys had on Darren's presentation. So, any? One, two? Joe, come on. Anything on the exchange side? Any thoughts, questions?
Yeah,
I was going to ask it if you didn't. I mean, I think display and everything that's happening on exchange is a relevant topic.
Nothing specific to announce today, but we do believe that to be an effective player in this, call it scaled display space, we have to be competitive on the brand side. We have to be competitive on our targeting offering, and also competitive in the broader, auction sense, as well as in search. So we're investing in each area. We actually think that our knowledge and engagement on the brand side will be an advantage to us as we head towards the exchange space, versus thinking that all advertising is an algorithm, because it comes down to a lot more than that. So how do we help our clients who are launching campaigns think about their mix within digital of brand, targeting, and then obviously the lower CPM performance type business, and using exchanges obviously for that. So, as a company, we have a lot going on, and I think the Yahoo integration is going to take a lot of effort, but it's also spurring along our innovation, and we know that as we come out of that space, we're going to be the only other marketplace around performance, and I think display and search also are coming closer together, and we're going to have to be very competitive with ad exchanges.
Yeah, I'm going to guess a year from now that the conversation and what we saw from Media Math is going to be a large part of the dialogue here, because it's just kind of creeping up in the US, and the interface to go in and buy display is going to look a lot like search, where you've got AdX and you've got Microsoft and Yahoo, and then the question is going to be, well, where the hell are we in Europe and other parts of the world when it comes to these exchange platforms? So it will be interesting. Jack.
So the putting on your marketer's hat.
Yes.
When you look at the traditional media world, as a marketer, and you have such an insider view from the digital perspective, how responsive do you think the traditional media are being in responding to your needs as a marketer?
It's a great question. I think probably the one media that has responded relatively well is television, although I have to say that most of that has been price versus like new ad formats, et cetera. We are doing a test with Navic, which is one of the acquisitions we made. It's called Admira Navic in San Diego, where we're doing targeted television. And the test has been super successful. This is basically through the set-top box, knowing whether the person watching is a single male or a family, single female, and actually having the ads change in the same show depending on who's watching the show. I think that's a potentially very exciting outcome for television, and a lot of people are looking at it pretty closely, and that could be a great progress in TV, and really digitizing TV in a sense, and allowing for that kind of targeting that you can buy on the internet. That would be huge. But if you get to other traditions like billboards, things like this, obviously that it's, someone said it is an important part of the mix. I think going 100% digital on an overall basis for really large brands is very unlikely. But having the right mix and having your brand show up on a billboard, and then when you get home and you turn on the computer and you see the same brand, something clicks as a consumer that, wow, something's going on here. Because I thought I saw a billboard, and then I'm like in this wholly different space, and I'm on MSN, I'm seeing the same thing. I'm going to click through to figure out what the heck's going on with Windows 7 or The Gap or something else. And as a marketer, I don't think I would ever do a campaign at any scale without a very healthy dose of digital. Also thinking always about digital not as the extra little 5% you put at the end of the campaign to match everything you're doing offline, but as an integral part of how you land the campaign. Here's an interesting thing. Go into a newspaper now, and and looked at how many people still put URLs at the bottom of their ads, which is to link that offline exposure with an online engagement. Actually, now you have a lot of brands that don't even put the URL because they know that people can find them on the internet through search tools, et cetera. But a lot of ads actually try to bridge what's happening in the offline world with the online world. We do that all the time.
Are you, I'm guessing because you said earlier on you're the owner, you own Xbox Live as well. Yeah, so whilst one doesn't condone nor support any counterfeit software or copying, are you on a commission for the additional sales that are going to be created over the next few weeks of Xboxes for the ones that are going to be banned from Xbox Live?
No comments. Thank you, though. No, actually, I'll give another comment because you brought up Xbox Live. It is, it's an incredibly fast emerging platform. One of the big things in America is Netflix. So my kids watch all their movies through Xbox. The only way that I got an Xbox into my home, even though I'm from Microsoft, because I have a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old, my wife's like, listen, I don't want those games, and da-da-da-da-da. But now we do all of our movie watching through Xbox because it wirelessly connects to the PC, and I've got tens of thousands of movies that I can watch. So Xbox is becoming a much broader device, and the online component of it is just booming. In terms of all the advertising that's going on, all the movie trailers, things like this, but also different ways to engage that audience. It's actually in America, it's the second biggest interactive TV platform after Comcast now, and I think people are recognizing that it's just a huge new way to engage a very specific audience. But thanks for your question. I know I kind of avoided answering it. I've been watching CNN as well this morning on this whole topic. So you had modded your Xbox? Oh, it wasn't you?
I think you guys have to settle this one in the break.
Did your child modified your Xbox? I see. That's funny. Thanks.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned IPTV initiative, and obviously, is there some kind of convergence coming with Xbox Live? I mean, they kind of do similar things. And if Xbox Live grows up the way you just described, and then you've got this IPTV thing, is that a convergence?
Yeah, we have our toes in many, many different video ponds, you could say. So there's Xbox. We do media room for a lot of the big telcos here in Europe. That's been quite successful. We obviously have MSN Video that was rebranded Bing Video this week in the United States. We have a long-form video execution in the UK. We, of course, have Media Center, which is also being leveraged. A recent announcement with Sky Television in the UK that's been hugely popular. So we actually created the iPlayer for the BBC as well. So we have our fingers and toes in a lot of areas in video. It's not absolutely obvious which model will win out with the consumer at the end of the day, but we're trying to play in many fronts. And obviously, the Xbox is a great way for video to get onto the TV. But I will just a little plug on the Windows 7. Windows 7 has a new function called Play 2. And I was the president of Microsoft in Japan for 3 years, so I worked with a lot of the Japanese TV makers to put extenders into the television. And if you buy a plasma or an LCD screen, say from Toshiba or Sony, et cetera, and you bought it, say, in the last 6 months, you may not even realize it, but it has an extender. So from your Windows 7 PC, one, you can network your whole home without cables in high definition. Secondly, you can play from your PC onto your TV. So you don't need a set-top box or a console. Your PC basically is your set-top box, and across your house it'll play movies or play music or play photos directly from your PC onto your display screen, which to me personally is the ultimate.
So it's not just the living room war, it's the house war, it's the war for the home.
Yeah, it really is. You know, there's, I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, I think that one of the experiences some of you may have, now that you've heard it, it won't be as magical when it happens, but you'll open up a Windows 7 PC and it'll say, oh, I see you have an electronic TV and a phone and an electronic toaster and a navigator. Do you want to create a network with all of those devices? And it'll blow people away because they'll be like, what? And then you'll go and there's a little number and you create your little network, and that becomes your personal home network. And there'll also be a slot in the cloud. You can add grandma's photo frame in Miami if you want to put it as part of your personal network. And when you put photos or movies into that folder, it'll play on all of those devices seamlessly, which I think will blow a lot of people away.
I think we got time for one more over there.
Reggie?
Yeah, I'd just love to hear a little bit more about the Looking Glass and where you see that headed. It's, you know, I know the conference is, a lot of it's about the explosion of online video, but I think we're also seeing social media is exploding as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at the numbers on Facebook. Time spent is, you know, 5 hours a month now. I'm sure it's eclipsing other traditional media, and I think there's a huge need for marketer solutions and agency solutions on how can you scale that and how marketers participate. I'd love to hear where that's going. I think it's a real exciting initiative.
Yeah,
obviously.
it's actually, it is. It's kind of one of these things we stumbled into. Like one of the things we've been doing with a lot of companies, obviously people have Windows Office, but one of the hottest products at Microsoft is SharePoint. So this has actually created a collaboration infrastructure in most large enterprises in the world. And Looking Glass is built right on top of SharePoint. So you get this fascinating thing where you can hook in your internal, you know, IT systems to very much a tier 1 application. That my own view, you know, I spent 5 years, I ran new ventures at Starbucks. It's all Seattle. So I've been a marketer for a number of years. Having that on your desktop, it's indispensable. It literally is. Now, what we got to be really careful of is watching the pollution of social media. I won't call it a specific competitor, but I've watched sometimes on Twitter where there's all these different characters saying the exact same thing, right? To try and boost up the metrics, try to get on the top 10 list. I think that's a pretty bad thing that's happening. But as long as social media stays kind of 95% pure, it's becoming a huge tool. By the way, it's also a huge tool for advertisers. So if you create advertising that's entertaining, you can get multiples on your investments. You'll spend, like we've had some advertising, we'll get 5 times as many views on social media for free as we'll get for the stuff that we paid for. Because we created interesting and entertaining content, people start sharing it with one another, start spoofing it, or start, you know, so it's another major avenue. Now, I don't know at the end of the day how all those companies make money. It's really hard to tell at times. But what an asset that's been opened up to the marketing community and to the internet community. And I don't. There will be, maybe there'll be another trend, but now as a kind of as a collection, it's certainly here to stay for a very long time. And again, indispensable for any modern digital marketer to really understand what's going on. We've had, I'll just, quick example, you know, we did an execution where our normal listening mechanism was one of the homepage takeovers we did. Our normal listening mechanism said that it was really, really bad because people who write in and say, I really don't like this, you know. And then we went on to the social media and it was hugely positive. So you gotta be really careful about how you listen to your consumer because people will complain through certain channels but won't take the time to say something was great. And whenever you change something, generally your listening channels will be too negative because people who don't like change usually complain through those channels. But people who love the change actually tend to go onto social media and tweet and blog about it, but not actually contact the company to tell them, hey, nice job. Really like the new version of XYZ. So it's interesting.
Fantastic.
That's it.
I think that's
Yeah,
a wrap.
thanks.
Thank you, Darren,
Yeah, thank
very
you.
much. Thank you, Curt. I think that was
Thanks a lot.
Well done.
Yeah, thanks.